Hey there, I'm going just a little bit off topic with this one because I think it's important to speak up at least one time in your life if you have strong feelings about something. Here where I live, which is Ontario, Canada, we just recently had a municipal election. And for those of you that are not familiar with our governmental system here, we have 3 levels, and the municipal is the lowest level. You know, the cities, the towns, the counties, and all that stuff. Those are the guys that run, your day-to-day stuff. They collect your property tax and all that. Now, I know a lot of you that are watching this are from the US, so I'll briefly go into what our government is here. It's based on the British parliamentary system, and that's basically because we were a British colony before we became a country of our own. And unlike the US, we didn't have a revolution to gain our independence. We asked for it politely. So like I said, the recent one was municipal. And to be honest, I wouldn't have known that it was taking place other than I saw the signs in people's, lawns and blowing around in the wind when you're driving around. And another clue was that I received some flyers in my mailbox from this particular candidate or that particular candidate promising the usual pie in the sky stuff to try to help convince us that they're more worthy of the cushy job than the other guy. I didn't spend a lot of time reading these pamphlets. I just looked at them to see what they were. But I noticed that one was promising high-speed internet. And I thought that was interesting because I wasn't aware that the local government was involved in the high-speed internet business. But then again, you know what? Nothing at this point would surprise me about what the government is up to. Now, I never did get a visit, to my door from the candidate. I guess they either concentrate on the more densely populated areas or they're putting all of their faith into their marketing campaign of sending out flyers rather than, the traditional pounding of the pavement. And this reminds me of a visit I got from a candidate a while back, actually, when I was living in another area. And after making a little bit of small talk, pretending that he's interested in how I'm doing and what my concerns were, he got down to the nitty-gritty and asked me if I would vote for him. And I answered him by saying that I don't vote, not at all. So he's wasting his time here. And then, of course, he responded rather sternly by asking me why I don't vote. And I said that I don't believe in the system as it's currently set up. And since he's obviously a part of that, I very well couldn't vote for him. And then he asked me to elaborate on that. He wanted to get in some, discussion on politics and whatnot. And I said, it's not about politics. I don't care what party you're from. I don't care about the things that you're promising that you'll do when you get in office. The fact is, I don't think that you'll be any different from the other guy if he got in. And I don't think that either one of you would be any different from the guy that was in before you or the guy that will be in after you. Well, at this point, he's visibly upset and stammering a little bit. I seem to have that effect on some people when they talk to me about things like this. Sometimes it seems that they just want to punch me. Anyway, he left in a huff, and I can't say one way or the other whether, he won or not, because I don't follow that. I don't follow that nonsense. I do know that things didn't improve overall. They never do. Instead, we stayed on the slow and steady downward course that this country's been on since the end of the 1950s. And you know what the reason for that is? It's government, in particular, ever expanding government. Living in a country with as many natural resources as we have here, not the least of which are the people themselves, and to have that squandered and beaten down by a bloated and ever-expanding socialist dictatorship. And by bloated, I mean that according to the figures I could find, roughly 25% of the workforce in Canada is employed by the government. either directly or indirectly. Now, Canada is not a big country population-wise. 36 million roughly people live here. But that 25% is a staggering figure. And actually it's probably higher. The only figures that I could find were from 5 years ago. And at that time, employment within the public sector was growing at a rate of more than 20% per year, as opposed to growth within the private sector, which is around 6%. Just imagine if that 25% of the workforce was gainfully employed in the private sector and not leeching off the other 75% that's paying their salaries. And let's not forget about their pensions in the future. Imagine how much more productive people would be if they had that money in their pocket, if they actually could keep all of the money they earned and not have 50% of it or more stolen away from them. How much more money would they invest so that the economy could actually grow? I mean, the real economy, not the artificial one set up by the government. How much more would they spend? And generally speaking, how much better would they feel about what they're doing? And how many more small businesses and enterprises would start up and thrive because they don't have a government coming down hard on them for every small little thing they do. Rules, regulations, licenses, taxes, and more taxes. These only make it harder for small business to grow, make it extremely hard for small business to survive. So back to the vote again. The traditional concept of voting is that it allows the people to change things that they don't like or things that they don't agree with. Well, that's absolute bullshit. I don't agree with any of the current system, and no amount of voting is going to change that. I mean, here we have three official parties, parties like in the States you have the Democrats and the Republicans. Well, up here we have soft communist option A, we have soft communist option B, and we have soft communist option C. Where's the option for those of us that want real freedom? And I was born in 1966, really before a lot of this stuff got into full swing, and I don't remember signing up for any of it. Is there a buyout option? I mean, looking at the national debt and the current figures, because it's going up by the second, of course, is that we each owe, every person that lives in this country, all 36 million of us owe $38,000. And then, of course, I live in Ontario, and Ontario has its own debt, and that's currently $22,000 per person. Can I pay mine and get out of this bad deal? Now back to the idea of voting again. The whole concept of voting someone in to do a job that the most qualified person should be doing is completely absurd. This is the broken democratic model in action. I mean, what motivates a person who has to rely on a largely uninformed public to get the job? Well, making promises that appeal to that largely uninformed public. Of course, like high-speed internet and other treats. Is that the way you would run a business? Elect the workers and the management and let the most popular win? And I'm sick of watching TV shows and movies that demonize big business, like they're the ones responsible for all of these problems. Fight Club had everything right except for the target. Same thing for its copycat, Mr. Robot. Banks, credit card companies, insurance companies aren't the enemy. Big government is. There are only two things that government truly excels at, and that's fiscal inefficiency and getting bigger. Back in the 70s, people kind of had a healthy suspicion of the government. And what happened to that exactly? Funded by the money they forcefully take from us, did the government ramp up their propaganda campaign? Did they get to us young and grind in these socialist ideas? Did they bribe the poorest among us with so-called social programs? did they start taxing the richest among us more and ingrain the attitude that those hardworking people have more and therefore should pay more. The fruits of their industry is that they get to share more of it. Hardworking, productive people are not the enemy here. Big government is and always has been.